They said Pastor Jonah's water could heal anything. From blindness to barrenness, people swore by it. The little bottles lined his pulpit like trophies of divine power, glimmering under church lights while worshippers stretched out trembling hands. Some claimed it smelled like heaven itself. But what no one knew was that behind the sweet fragrance of salvation, something darker brewed, something that would one day shatter the fate of an entire village. It began one humid Sunday morning in the town of Umudike. The church courtyard was crowded long before sunrise. Traders closed their stalls, mothers carried babies wrapped in white lace, and men who hadn't prayed in years knelt on the sandy ground waiting for the anointed man of God. Everyone wanted a drop of that water. It was said to change destinies, to open wombs, to drive demons into the deep forest. Yet, among the crowd that day was one woman who wasn't there to be healed. She came to uncover the truth. Her name was Adaora, a quiet herbalist daughter who had lost her mother to a strange sickness months earlier. Her mother had been a devoted member of Pastor Jonah's church. She believed the water would cure her pain, even when doctors had begged her to seek real treatment. She died clutching an empty bottle labeled Heaven's Dew. Adaora's grief burned into suspicion, and suspicion into resolve. That morning, she came not to pray but to investigate. As drums thundered and choirs sang, Pastor Jonah appeared in his signature white suit, gold cross gleaming. He walked slowly, like a king approaching his throne. "The Lord has revealed to me," he thundered, "that today, shackles will break." The crowd roared. He lifted one bottle of the miracle water, sprinkled it into the air, and a woman fell to the ground, convulsing. "Deliverance," he shouted. The ushers dragged her aside as people screamed in awe. Adaora watched every move, every motion of his hand, memorizing his gestures. When the service ended, Adaora waited behind, pretending to clean the pews. She saw a boy, thin, nervous, maybe 14, carrying a crate of empty bottles into a side room. He was the pastor's errand boy. She followed quietly, keeping her distance. Through a half-open door, she saw shelves stacked with gallons of water, strange herbs in jars, and small packets wrapped in brown paper. The boy poured a powdery substance into the water, stirred it with a wooden spoon, then corked each bottle tightly. Adaora's heart pounded. Later that night, Adaora returned home, replaying the image in her mind. What was in that powder? She decided to return the next day under disguise. She borrowed her cousin's scarf, covered her face, and joined the volunteers at church, claiming she wanted to serve God. Pastor Jonah was delighted. He always welcomed new hands. By afternoon, she was helping pack bottles, her eyes darting to every corner, searching for clues. When no one was looking, she slipped one small brown packet into her bag. That night, by the dim light of a kerosene lamp, she poured the contents onto a white plate. It shimmered faintly, like crushed crystals. Her father, once a healer before the pastor called his herbs witchcraft, took one look and froze. "My child," he whispered, "this is no holy powder. This is the Adaora, devil's trumpet. It can cause visions and madness." Adaora's breath caught. The so-called miracle water wasn't blessed, it was drugged. She wanted to expose him immediately, but her father warned her. "The people will not believe you, Adaora. He is their God now. You must show them proof." And so, she began her plan. Over the next week, she volunteered more, pretending devotion while secretly watching every preparation. She noted when shipments arrived, who delivered them, and where they were stored. The pastor's miracles grew more dramatic. People screamed, fainted, saw angels, all after drinking or being sprinkled with his holy water. Adaora realized the drug created hallucinations that he called visions. One evening, she followed him after service. Pastor Jonah left in a black SUV and stopped at an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town. Through a crack in the wall, Adaora saw him hand an envelope full of money to a stranger, a man in a lab coat. "Mix it the same way," Jonah ordered. "Stronger this time." They must see heaven itself. The man laughed. Be careful, Pastor. Too much and you'll kill them. Jonah smiled coldly. If one dies, the others will believe even more. Adaora's blood boiled. She ran back home and told her father. They decided to gather evidence, photos, samples, witnesses. But how could they collect proof without being caught? Her father suggested a daring idea. Pretend to be sick, he said. Let him give you his water. We will test it. The thought terrified her, yet she agreed. The next day, she arrived at church wearing a shawl, coughing weakly. Man of God, heal me, she whispered. Jonah laid hands on her, muttering in tongues, then handed her a bottle. Drink, my daughter, and be free. She took one sip, enough to make her tongue tingle. Her father later analyzed the residue. It tested positive for datura and other hallucinogenic herbs. But before they could act, rumors began spreading that Adaora had been delivered. People said they saw her dancing in the market, eyes glowing. Jonah used her as his new testimony. This young woman was healed by heaven's dew. Adaora realized the trap was closing. Her silence would make her complicit. It was time to strike. The following Sunday was the church's biggest crusade, Night of Unending Miracles. Thousands gathered from neighboring villages. A film crew recorded everything. Jonah boasted, "Tonight, the blind will see, the lame will run." Adaora stood among the crowd, clutching her phone, recording every word. When the service reached its peak, Jonah lifted a new batch of bottles and shouted, "This water is power." Adaora shouted back, "No, it is poison." The crowd gasped. Jonah's face darkened. "Who dares speak against the anointed?" he roared. Adaora stepped forward. "I am the daughter of Momankechi, who died drinking your miracle water. You fed her poison disguised as God's blessing." Murmurs rippled through the congregation. Jonah laughed, trying to regain control. "The devil speaks through her. Ushers, remove this girl." But before they reached her, she raised her phone and played a video, Jonah in the warehouse, ordering the mixture. The crowd erupted. Women screamed. Men surged forward. The boy helper, trembling, stepped onto the pulpit. "It's true," he cried. "I've been mixing the powder for months. Pastor said it makes people feel the Holy Spirit." Jonah grabbed the microphone, stammering prayers, but the cameras were still rolling. The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, the video hit social media. #MiracleWaterExposed trended across Nigeria. By dawn, police surrounded the church. When they searched the storeroom, they found dozens of packets of datura, marked with the same supplier's label. Jonah was arrested, but even as officers led him away, he shouted, "You cannot arrest God's anointed. This is persecution." Some followers still knelt, crying, convinced it was a test of faith. Others cursed him, demanding justice. Adaora watched in silence, tears streaming, unsure whether to feel victory or sorrow. Her mother's death had not been in vain, but faith in the village lay broken. The next weeks were chaos. Journalists flooded Umudike. Government officials promised investigations, while other pastors distanced themselves. Jonah's church closed permanently, its walls stained with graffiti that read, "God is not a business." Adaora and her father were called heroes by some, traitors by others. They received threats at night, anonymous letters quoting scripture twisted into warnings. But Adaora stood firm. "Truth," she said, "is louder than fear." Eventually, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Jonah appeared pale, wearing a plain prison robe. When the prosecutor listed the charges, manslaughter, fraud, and conspiracy, he smiled faintly, as though still preaching. "I did nothing wrong," he insisted. "They wanted miracles, I gave them faith." But when the boy testified, describing how Jonah instructed him to add the drug, the mask began to crack. Tears filled the boy's eyes. He told me God works through science, he said. The judge's gavel struck like thunder. Outside, protesters carried placards, "Faith is not for sale." Adaora sat quietly under a mango tree nearby, listening to radio updates. Her father had fallen ill again, exhausted by the ordeal. She held his hand and whispered, "Momo's spirit can rest now." That night, she dreamt of her mother smiling, standing by a river of clear, untarnished water. When she woke, she felt peace for the first time in years. Months passed. Jonah was sentenced to 20 years in prison. His followers scattered, some ashamed, some still defending him online. The warehouse was demolished, and in its place, the community built a small health clinic named after Adaora's mother. The new sign read, "Nkechi Memorial Center, Truth Heals." Adaora volunteered there, teaching people about safe herbs and real medicine. Ironically, she became what Jonah pretended to be, a true healer. But fame came at a cost. Reporters haunted her doorstep, asking how she felt, bringing down a man of God. Adaora answered softly, "I didn't bring him down. Lies did." Her words went viral. She became a symbol of courage, though she never sought fame. She only wanted her mother's story remembered, not as tragedy, but as warning. Because even in faith, darkness hides behind light. One evening, as the sun melted into orange dust, a stranger visited the clinic. He was thin, his face hidden beneath a cap. When he spoke, Adaora froze. It was Jonah's former errand boy. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know people would die. I thought I was helping God." Adaora placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were helping a man who forgot God," she said. "Now help heal what he broke." From that day, the boy worked with her, teaching children about truth and critical thinking. Still, whispers of miracles never fully disappeared. New prophets rose, selling anointed oil, holy perfume, and deliverance soap. Adaora often warned villagers, "If your faith must come in a bottle, then it's no longer faith." Some listened. Others laughed. Yet, each time she spoke, someone remembered her story, and perhaps, one less life was lost. Years later, a journalist released a documentary titled "The Water That Lied." It told the full story of Umudike's miracle craze, from Pastor Jonah's rise to Adaora's courage. The final scene showed Adaora watering plants at her clinic, smiling gently as children played around. "Miracles do exist," she said to the camera, "but they live in compassion, not chemicals." The world watched in silence, and many wept. Jonah died quietly in prison 2 years later, still claiming he was chosen by God. When news of his death reached Umudike, no one celebrated. The villagers simply gathered at church and prayed, not for him, but for themselves, to never be blinded by greed again. Adaora attended the service, lighting a candle for his soul. "May he find the truth he sold," she murmured. As dawn rose over Umudike, mist curling around the hills, Adaora walked to the river where her mother used to fetch water. She filled a jar and poured it gently onto the earth. "For every lie," she whispered, "truth must flow." The ripples glimmered like silver threads, carrying away pain, deceit, and memory. In that moment, the village seemed reborn, not through a pastor's miracle, but through the quiet power of honesty, love, and awakening. And that, perhaps, was the real miracle after all.